Hey team, it's Mary Lou Kayser. Before we get into today's show, I've got a question for you. How much time and thought have you put into designing your legacy? I'm not talking about financial planning. We do a pretty good job of preparing people for that. I'm talking about what happens in that space once the career ends. The truth is, too many people who have worked hard their entire lives discover they are not prepared for what happens when the work stops. And guess what? Your legacy will be defined for you whether you decide to own it or not. You see, I believe we are not here to leave a legacy. I believe we are here to live a legacy, and it is up to us to design and define the legacy we want to live. That's why I want to invite you to be a part of Your Legacy, Your Life, an exciting 6-week virtual program you get to enjoy once a week from the comfort of your home, beginning on February 20th and going through March 26th. Each week, we will meet for 90 minutes to explore the exciting possibilities of designing a legacy you can be proud of. Think of this program as a way to get clear about what life after work can mean for you from a personal and purpose vantage point. Get a customized legacy profile specific to your most authentic and true self. Gain clarity about what your life's experiences and how they can add value and make a difference to others. See your legacy roadmap unfold each week to guide you into the next phase of life with confidence and a sense of possibility. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you will join me. Right now, early bird pricing is available, but the price will increase soon. Check out all the details over at maryloukayser.com/legacy24. That's maryloukayser.com/legacy24. This is a great opportunity to work with me and a cohort of dynamic professionals like the ones you hear each week on this podcast. What's your living legacy worth to you? I'm offering you the chance to not only create your legacy, but own the narrative of what it means. Again, go to maryloukayser.com/legacy24. I hope to see you there. Now, on to today's show.
And so I see so many of my peers just working themselves to the bone and missing time out in their children's lives, missing time in their own lives. And not being able to give themselves permission because of old belief system, but also you can change an old belief system if people want to. I mean, I change my belief systems. Like, I'm always in the lookout. Okay, where's that coming from? Okay, that doesn't serve me anymore. It's like a work in progress. But we need to know what to do next. Whenever we get rid of something, if we don't replace it with something purposeful, life will fill it for us.
This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kayser.
Hello, Team PYP. Mary Lou Kayser here. Welcome to today's episode of the Play Your Position podcast. I am so happy you decided to join me today because it's game day here at PYP, which means I have a guest who is suited up, ready to take the field and bring us into her leadership journey, which I know you're going to find fascinating and inspiring because she's accomplished a lot and she's done it in a way that I think we all need to really pay attention to. And she's going to get into the details of that. Her name is Michele Hecken, and she's coming to us from Alberta, Canada, up there in the way north. Michele, are you ready for kickoff?
I am so ready. I'm so excited to be here today. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yes, I am excited to have you share your journey. And so, team, let me share a little bit about Michele with you, and she's going to fill in the gaps. Again, she's just so accomplished, and I'm just honored to be talking with you. Michele is an ex-CEO who helps high-performing leaders design an organization where each person spends their time working on things they love. And she is moving into the space. She's built a company, sold a company, helps entrepreneurs with the art of offboarding. And she's going to explain what that means. She is a mother. She was a single mother, and she still lived a life of freedom, growth, financial success, and happiness, all while scaling her company. Now, that may seem like a fairy tale to a lot of people, but she is here to tell us it is not a fairy tale. It is absolutely possible. And she's going to explain how that is possible. She believes in cultivating the ability to offboard yourself from your business so you can focus exclusively on what inspires you while eliminating the rest. And again, she has walked this walk. This is not just some theory. This is real. And so, Michele, with that said, you've built a company, you've raised 2 children, you are poised and gorgeous, you've sold your company, you are helping so many entrepreneurs with one of the hardest things to do, which is to separate themselves from their business. So would you be willing to tell us your story about when you got this call to leadership? What was going on in your life? When did it come to you? Did you realize it right away? Was it more gradual? But put us into the context of this amazing story that you have been living.
Absolutely. I would love to. And thank you. That was probably one of the most beautiful introductions that I've heard. So I'm very grateful to you, Mary Lou. Thank you. So my story, I've always been an entrepreneur. And the way I know that is I've never actually had a job in my life. So when I was very young, I grew up in Germany. So I'm half German, half Canadian. My mom was Canadian, my dad German. So moved back and forth, grew up with both languages, but also was easily able to transverse cultures. So when we first moved to Germany, I was 2.5. I didn't speak much German then because mother tongue, I was speaking English with my mother in Canada. And so we moved back and forth several times. And very early on, probably when I was about 13, 14, I won a competition in school. It was, and I'm smart, but I wasn't, one of those great scholars. The reason I won, the equivalent of $500, and it's probably like $5,000 now. This was back in 1983 or something like that.
Sure.
And I won this $500. And the reason I won the $500 is because I didn't even know about it because I wasn't paying attention. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're having this regional competition. I was not prepared. I jumped in there. The reason I jumped in is because I hadn't done my math homework. So it allowed me to skip math class. And then I went into the competition. It was about business and economics and stuff like that. And I won, which was a shock because I only went there to skip math class. And then I realized it's true. And I remember coming home and saying, Dad, I won this money. Mom, Dad, I won this money. And I got interviewed by the newspaper and the radio station, all of that stuff. I think I was like, 15, maybe 16.
Sure.
And what that kicked off was this just feeling of, oh, life is easy. I can accomplish this, right? And just as an aside, I do believe whether we think life is easy or life is hard, we're right. And if
100%.
we look at life being easy, it propels us on a different journey, right? So I had this windfall to me, and I'm like, wow, but I did this. Like, it was my effort and my knowledge and my brain that got me this without any preparation. And instead of feeling guilty for not having prepared like all the other students, I just felt incredibly proud. And you'll kind of see this pattern throughout my journey where I just look at the world that things come easy to me, right? Like, it's just a world view or a belief that I've always had, which I've been grateful to have had instilled from my parents. And I think it's one of the most important things in leadership to believe in the best outcome and to believe that it's going to be okay. But I didn't know any of that back then. So I'm just like, I am invincible. I'm this young 16-year-old blonde chick and I'm just feeling on top of the world. And then I thought, well, what else can I do? Because I did the math. It's like, wow, that took me an hour of my time. I made, this much money. And then my friends are having jobs and, they're working all summer for that amount of money. So that was really the kickoff when I realized there's a different avenue.
And it's ironic that you did the math when you skipped math class, but you figured out, hey, I could make a lot more money. I think when money comes into the math equation, people pay more attention.
It's really funny. And of course, back then, it really was in Germany, like girls are good at languages, boys are good at math.
Very stereotyped.
And I verified that because I already came with 2 languages fluently.
Right.
So again, path of least resistance, I'm going to have to work less hard if I pursue languages versus the effort in math. But what's funny is I love numbers. Like today is one of the first things I look at. I can look at a P&L and things will just pop out at me. And all my life I was told I was bad at math. So, oh yeah. But yeah, you're right. Once money comes into the equation and we can look at numbers as our strategic friend instead of our enemy, everything changes, right? But schools don't do that. So anyways, I started getting serving jobs where I wouldn't make a basic wage, but they would give me 10% of revenue. And so I made tons of money selling in bars and restaurants, serving, and it was all for 10% of revenue. If nobody came in, I didn't make any money. So that was the seeds of entrepreneurship very early on. I think I had my first serving job at 14 or 15, where it's like, okay, if you do this, you'll have money at the end of the day. If you don't do this, you'll have nothing. And if somebody doesn't come in, you'll have nothing. And so just that unentitlement, I think, is what it was.
I like that.
I don't know. I just made it up, but it was this, this, if I want to accomplish something, it relies on me and my energy and what I put out. And of course, I'm kind of creating an anachronism here because I didn't know about energy then. I just kind of did it. But really that was the kickoff. And then, I did other things, and it was really, I have never had a paycheck in my entire life because it just didn't make sense to me. So when you ask about the impetus, what was your call to leadership? It was that realization that this can be way easier than how 90% of the people are doing it. And that's what I wanted. I was lazy back then. I skipped classes. Things were easy. I didn't, whatever the path of least resistance with the largest outcome. And isn't that really the definition of how we function as entrepreneurs?
Yes. It's so refreshing to hear somebody be so candid about taking the path of least resistance, because for whatever reason, and again, you were raised in 2 different cultures than American culture. Not that you don't know American culture, but for those of us who were born and raised in this culture, there is that very powerful, it's unspoken, but it's everywhere. Work hard and you will succeed. Well, people equate that phrase work hard with it can't be easy because,
correct,
right? That's the opposite of hard. So if this is too easy, I'm doing something wrong. That is such a pervasive mindset. And it's just so nice to hear your story that may inspire some listeners who might be keeping, they're hitting their head against the wall. Like, why is this so hard? Maybe the door you need to walk through is like 5 feet away, and because you're banging your head so hard, you can't see the darn thing, right?
It's right.
So tell us about your company that you built, and also enlighten us about being a single mom, raising 2 amazing children while building this empire that you built.
Awesome. Let me lead into that. And I'm going to take you right to a point in time where I had this massive realization. I just wanted to comment on what you just said. It's so true. It's this belief that is inside us. I have a couple clients, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue in their company. Okay. And they're struggling to gain a little bit of freedom, because that mindset is so strong of I have to work hard, otherwise I don't deserve the results. So it's a belief, right?
Yes.
And I would honestly say I was lucky. I've done a lot of self-mastery and personal development work in my life, but back then I hadn't. And I can tell you that I wasn't in an environment where it was like that. My mom was a bit of a free spirit and, so I kind of got that influence. But in Germany, the work ethic, the punctuality, the belief that you have to work hard to make money. I mean, grew up with sayings like money doesn't grow on trees and money's hard to come by and it's not easy to make money. And I know that's a bit of an aside, but those beliefs actually hold us back from seeing the door that's open right there because we can't give ourselves permission to look there because we feel it's wrong. And then we walk around our whole life like checking our back. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? And so I don't know, maybe it's not my first life. I don't know. Maybe I have some previous lesson, whether people believe that or not. I don't know. But I was just maybe defiant. It's like, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't want it. I don't like it. And maybe those early little windfalls encouraged me to say, no, I'm going to do it differently. And it was out of the ordinary for sure. So for those listeners who think, oh yeah, she was lucky and she grew up in an environment where she didn't have those beliefs, not true. Yeah. I had them all around me.
Of course. Of course. And beliefs are what drive everything. I mean, exactly. I've come to understand that in the last, I'd say 8 years or so of diving into the deep work that's required if you want to make any kind of massive transformation in your life. And it doesn't come overnight. And you use the word luck because that's a superstition that people will throw out because they can't explain why some people succeed. And I put that in air quotes, the way our culture says success looks like versus themselves, who they look around, they're like, well, I'm working hard. and I'm not getting ahead. And right. It often comes down to those invisible scripts, those beliefs that are so ingrained in the culture and in the family of origin, like you just described. That's what you heard. I heard that stuff too growing up. The whole money story is so toxic.
Yeah, so toxic.
And I know you're out to change that.
I am. Okay, so this conversation could be a whole other podcast. So let me take you back. It's 8 a.m. in June 1994. And I come down the stairs in our house here in Canada. I had 2 kids, 2 and 3 years old. I walk into my office and what I see is 40 feet of thermal paper fax covering the floor of my office.
Oh my gosh.
So I had started a translation company. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But in that moment, business translations from clients who were sending me orders, it was literally rolling in and my heart sank because at that moment, I knew this is going to be another 20-hour day because we have to put the work in first, right? We have to put the work in first. So, but it was my own business. I had 2 kids. I had clients all over the world. And I'm looking at this paper snake on my floor and I know this is going to be another day where I don't read my kids a bedtime story.
Oh, man.
It's going to be another day of working 20 hours. This is going to be another day of probably takeout. Took a deep breath. I couldn't do anything about it. I was 27 or something like that. I was responsible for the income of our family, the mortgage, the house, and I had a vision to build this business. So I took a deep breath and I went to work and at 2 a.m. I finally finished. But I wasn't a single mom then, so my husband was there, took care of everything. But at 2 a.m. I finally finished. Everybody's in bed. Now, with a fax machine, a lot of our listeners won't know this. When you fax something back to the client, and they were in Germany, so it was their morning, 2 a.m., you have to wait for the send confirmation, right? You can't just go to bed. So I'm faxing all of this stuff back and I have to stay up. So I listen to my answering machine. I listen to the first message. Yes, you had to press a button. And it goes, beep. Hi, Michele. This is Dr. Charles's office. You have missed another appointment. Please be advised that we have a wait list for new patients. And if you do not show up, we will, you're not going to be able to come anymore. Second message, beep, Michele, this is Betta's salon. You have made 4 appointments in the last month and you have shown up to none of them. We will no longer be able to serve you. And the last message, beep, hi, love. This is Cindy. I miss you so much. And we haven't seen each other. I'm worried about you. Are you okay? Like, are you even still alive? Like, what's happening with you?
Mm.
And when I heard those messages, and I still have goosebumps, I sat down on the floor and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting fired from my own life.
Oh my gosh.
I'm getting fired from my own life. I have zero control other than to get up and serve my clients all day long. And everybody else, like I'm getting fired. And I went upstairs to check on my girls, and they're like in their bed, little angels sleeping. And I just broke down. Like I couldn't stop crying. I was just in their room. It's like, look at these beautiful babies that I have, and look at this beautiful life that I'm building, but I'm not living it. I just got fired from it. And if I don't make a change right now, these two beautiful babies are going to fire me from their lives, because I will not have been there. I will not matter in their lives. And I think I sat there and cried. Eventually, I think I fell asleep and checked on the facts later. I was just exhausted. And so the very next day I got up and it's like, okay, I do not want this life. And I want to be a mom and I love my kids, but I don't want to be a full-time mom. I have more in me. And I wanted to build my business, but I also didn't want to work 20 hours in my business and neglect my family. And everybody at that time was telling me, like I was a mid-20-year-old mom. And I'm not going to lie, it was mostly men who said, well, it's nice that you have this cute little side gig, with your kids and that's awesome. And, but it's impossible to do both. You cannot build a successful business and be a great mom at the same time. And I heard that over and over again.
Wow.
Okay. Where I didn't hear it was from my parents. My parents always encouraged me, always supported me. So having somebody in your corner, whoever that may be, that believes in you. And because we have to give ourselves permission every single day to do what we do. And as entrepreneurs, we have to bring up the energy every single day to do what we do, because we don't have a boss. So we're our own boss. So we need to get that attitude, that positive energy, that we got to get it from somewhere, right? So having people around you who support your dream is really important. But what I did over the next year, I hired translators. I trained translators. Then I ended up proofreading 20 hours a day and editing 20 hours a day. Then I gradually did that. So it wasn't like, oh, okay, Michele decided to offboard and she's so super smart that the next day her life changed. No, it took time, and it took about, and there was relief along the way. Right. And I put some boundaries around some things, but still I was building a business. And we talked earlier about, yes, things come easy to me. We still need to put some of the work in. Like right now I'm building yet another business, and yes, I'm busy, but it's fun, but I'm building it in a way that I know I can get out. Right. So that was really, really profound, that moment when I realized I'm getting fired from my life.
Yeah.
And I'm going to choose to do both. I'm going to defy all of those people who are telling me it can't be done.
Yep.
And you know what? They were probably right in their own mind.
Of course they were.
This was like whatever, the early 90s. And since it was mainly men telling me that, well, all they knew was they go to work, and if they would try on for size, even for a moment in their minds, and I'm not men bashing here, I'm just saying at a point in time in society.
That's right.
For a man to think about that they're doing a full-time job, having to come home, tend to children, do homework, get groceries, cook, at a time where I couldn't afford to hire help yet, that was just unfathomable for them. And they weren't trying to discourage me. That's just, they just couldn't wrap their brain around it. And I think there's a lesson in that, because sometimes we can see something, especially as entrepreneurs, that other people don't see. That's what makes us entrepreneurs. But for some weird reason, we end up listening to the people that haven't done what we've done and adjusting our standards to them. Like, what's wrong with that picture?
Yeah. And you want to talk about an ingrained belief system. You just described one about the roles that people play, about what's possible and what's not. And things have changed to a degree.
Absolutely.
However, those beliefs are still very much around today. And I'm sure you encounter them when you're coaching your clients and you're working with entrepreneurs who are successful. They've built sometimes, multi-million-dollar businesses and still are handcuffed to a belief system that is causing them friction. And do you see people who tell you, and maybe not in the language you use, they feel that they're being fired from their own life, and yet they continue to persist with the same behavior because they don't know any different?
Yes, all the time. And what's interesting is because they do know different. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, like you're in this ecosystem. What are we always told? Work on your business, not in your business.
Right.
Work on your business, not in. So they know. The challenge is this. One, yes, you'd think when all entrepreneurs and all gurus and all thought leaders are telling you need to work on your business, you'd think that would give you the permission to do so. But it's a permission issue, one.
Yes.
And two, like you'd think if everybody's saying do this, then it's like, okay, well, I have permission to do this. But that's how strong those beliefs are. That's how strong that is to connect. Or the belief that is connected to, that's just internally wrong because I'm not working. It's our definition of work. And when we work on our business and we're doing the things that we love, that bring the most value to our business, and enjoying free time to think and play, we feel that's not enough. Because we still think in terms of trading time for money, although every entrepreneur that I know says, oh no, I have a scalable business. I don't trade time for money. Do you really? How many hours a week do you work?
Yeah.
If you're working 80 hours a week, and so I'm going to do I told you I like math and I don't have the exact numbers, and I'm sure the listeners are going to be taking out their calculators, but it's somewhere around the lines of if you work 80 hours a week, and you have a $5 million company, you make about $1,000 an hour, $1,100 an hour. Okay. So everything that you should be doing, because what's the job of the CEO? Grow the company and build a kick-ass culture, right?
Right.
You need the vision to grow the company. You need the vision to build the culture, right? So everything you do now needs to bring in, if you're operating on a 50% gross margin, needs to bring in double that value. So when you look at what you're doing and your rate is $1,000 an hour because you're working 80 hours a week, is what you're doing worth $1,000 or $2,000 an hour? And if you cut that back to $40,000 an hour, 40 hours a week, my goodness, then your revenue per hour goes up. But you even need to focus more on those things that bring that revenue. And when we look at it at what value am I bringing to the organization versus how much time am I spending in the organization, everything shifts. So that's a permission thing. The second thing that holds people back in actually working on their business is that they just don't know how, because nobody tells you how to work on their business. They just start delegating random stuff. And so that I feel it's a good lead in to what we want to talk about next, perhaps, but nobody tells you. They just tell you what to do, but not, okay, what does that even mean to work on your business?
Right.
It's halftime here at the Play Your Position podcast, and we've got ourselves a great game. While you're up grabbing another snack and topping off your favorite beverage, make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss another play. PYP is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts can be found. Now, let's get back to the game.
And in today's world, which is highly dependent upon what we see online, maybe we're constantly looking at whether it's a social media platform like LinkedIn or Instagram. What do people put on those things? The best of the best. Mm-hmm. Very rarely do we see the behind the scenes of a day to day, of the ups and downs, the thing that didn't go right. People, and I count myself among these people. I put celebratory things on social media, like, hey, I just had a great conversation with Michele today, or hey, that episode of my podcast just landed, and it's all polished and it's great. And so we all play into that because we're human, and there's just that vanity piece that we're going to want to put our best foot forward. But to your point about the 80-hour work weeks and really sitting back and saying, is this the best use of my time? Am I really showing up and bringing what I love to do, first of all, to this organization, whether it's an organization of 4 or it's an organization of 4,000? Exactly. The question is still the same. And your point about also, we're not taught about that formula of working on the business versus in. Most businesses are founded by people who are doing something. You are a perfect example. You are a translator. You built a business around translation. You were the business. You were doing all of the business. That is that's almost every entrepreneur's origin story. Is we love to do something, we do it, and then suddenly this could be a business, and now we're faced with a myriad of challenges, from building the right team around us to then shifting our role from being the doer to being being in it to being on it. And I know that's one of your specialties, is helping people see how they can make that shift. Because it's a belief system. It's like, if I'm not in the trenches, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
That's a belief.
And are people working? Like, what's happening? Yeah.
Right.
It's absolutely a belief. And it applies to young companies. Yep. As well as mature companies. And
sure does.
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of how our society and how we do business is changing with new generations coming in, with AI coming in. Again,
that's a different conversation.
Different conversation. But here's the thing. When we have a system, people are so burnt out. I mean, I've been part of Entrepreneurs Organization for 17 years. It's an amazing organization of entrepreneurs. I'm throwing a little plug. Amazing network team. I think 14 or more thousand members around the world. And so I see so many of my peers just working themselves to the bone and missing time out in their children's lives, missing time in their own lives. And not being able to give themselves permission because of old belief system, but also you can change an old belief system and people want to. I mean, I change my belief systems. Like, I'm always in the lookout. Okay, where's that coming from? Okay, that doesn't serve me anymore. It's like a work in progress, but we need to know what to do next. Whenever we get rid of something, if we don't replace it with something purposeful, life will fill it for us.
And sometimes with stuff that's damaging.
Exactly. Exactly. So what I do when I coach my clients or when I give talks, it really is about, okay, let's get clear on the value that you provide to the business. Let's get clear on what you're actually doing, because you're going to laugh at this, but you're also going to. Entrepreneurs do not have a job description. Nope. We create job descriptions for everybody else in our company, and nobody knows what we're really doing. I mean, maybe we're walking around the office, maybe we're doing sales, but truly, often even our number 2, our COO, our integrator, our executive team are not clear on what we're doing. And let me take this a step further. We don't know either. And that's where a lot of the stress comes from. We don't. You just described the perfect scenario. Like, I was doing translations, baking cakes, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
when you're starting, there's everything that needs to be done by you.
Yep.
Right. So you're figuring it out. So there comes a transition where, you develop a new belief, which is only I can do it well. And I'm the teacher and nobody can do it as well as me, which is a trap, of course. Right. But that's kind of where that starts. And then we start holding on to things. And sometimes we start holding on to things because we like them, even though they have zero value for our company. Right. But like it's, sometimes if we have so many things in a day that are hard, we sometimes hold on to the little ones. They may even take an hour or two of our time, but we hold on to them because we enjoy them when everything else feels hard. Now, there is a better way. So the first thing that I start when I work with entrepreneurs or explaining my system is get clear on what's on your plate. Write down what you're doing. And think about, have I been doing the same thing for the last 2 years? Meanwhile, my company has grown this much, but entrepreneurs, we question everything all the time. Strategy, people, but we don't question how we're spending our time every single day, right? Because it feels good to just even show up and sit in the office. Well, I'm here, people
I'm
see
doing
me.
something.
I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And when I go through that exercise with my client and we say, okay, which of these give you energy and which of these drain your energy? Which of these would you say will bring you? We figure out, okay, what's your hourly worth? Not wage, worth. Because we want to talk about contribution and value instead of time spent sitting your butt on the chair in your office. Right? Those are two completely different things. And so be clear on what that is. And be clear on how much value this activity that you're doing actually brings to the company. And if you're clinging to something that, maybe it takes you 5 times as long, but then that's a really clear indication that there's some kind of belief there that you can do it better than anybody else. So when I work with clients, we get clear on that. And then we kind of, okay, what's behind this belief? Why do you think you can't let that go? And typically on average, within the first 2 months of working with my clients, we can get 10 hours a week gone. Easy. And I hear so often, it's like, well, I can't offboard. I don't have budget to hire somebody else and we can't expand our team. And right now the economy is not that great. Okay. Well, then shouldn't you be selling more? Shouldn't you be growing your business? Shouldn't you be building relationships? Isn't that your job? Why are you hiding in your office doing these things? Right? Once we put a value to it, it becomes clear. What gets measured gets done. So that's the first thing I look at. And it just is really interesting because people are like, wow, what? I didn't even realize I was doing these things.
Right.
And what are you procrastinating on?
Almost always the thing we just don't want to actually face.
Right.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I've spoken to so many on this show, certainly, and have moved in that circle of people, it's just going back to the path of least resistance. Sometimes that can really come back and bite us because it becomes a routine. Like, well, I've done this before. It's worked in the past. So maybe if I just hold on long enough, it's going to start working again. And you and I both know, Michele, that that's not accurate, that life is a constant evolution of developing our skills and moving into deeper awareness, getting rid of the ignorance. Like when people say, I didn't realize, that's a moment of, you were ignorant to this particular thing. And it's not a bad thing, certainly, we don't know what we don't know. And it's until someone like...
It's a great thing because we're learning and we're moving on, right? And we're changing and we're evolving. And absolutely, it's such a great thing. So change always starts with awareness. Once we have awareness, we have choice, and awareness always forces a choice.
Which is why people avoid it.
Yes, but when we're avoiding it, we're still making a choice.
Yes. And
we are choosing not to act on our knowledge. And a good friend of mine, Peter Sage, always says, knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing.
It is. And then there's
Absolutely.
that great line
it's
from...
actually worse. It's actually worse.
It
because
is
if
worse.
I don't know I'm innocent and I don't feel any guilt, but when I know and I don't do, now what's happening? I'm compounding this with guilt.
And shame.
And it's weighing me down, guilt and shame, right? For what? It's so much easier. And then what are we told? We need to delegate. Okay. So I have countless clients and countless people when I hold a talk come to me and say, I'm delegating. Why is this not working? I like my payroll costs are going up because I've been told to delegate. And now it's cutting into my profit. So when I did it myself, I made more money. Why am I hiring all these people? Because delegating is not working for me. I'm still stressed. I'm still burnt out. I still can't sleep, right? I'm still tired all the time. It's not working. But that's what everybody tells everybody to do. And I know exactly why it's not working. I know exactly why it's not working. And I'm not saying, hey, I'm the wisdom guru or anything like that. I know it because I've done it and I've seen it.
So why isn't it working?
Because we don't delegate with purpose. And so the reason I created the word offboarding, it really means strategic delegation with a goal of building a business that runs without you. There's no word for that, right? Delegate is just giving somebody something. So let me tell you the story. Here's what happens when we delegate it. I'm sure most of our listeners will relate to this. We're sitting there, we're like, okay, we have all this stuff on our plate. A lot of things we love doing, right? And we all know the rocks in the jar example, right? Big rocks first, then pebbles and sand, and then water, except water is our life. Why are we not putting that in the jar first? But again, different topic. Here's the thing. When we delegate, we typically delegate out of distress. Okay. We have stuff on our plate and we want to get rid of it. But because we have this pride and this amazing work ethic, we don't want to say no from the get-go. We don't want to say, oh no, this is too much, or this is really hard for me, or no, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to hustle through, like swimming against the current in a river, right? It's hard because eventually you get tired. The river's going to take you back where you started. And that's what happens to people when they do this. They take stuff off and it's like, oh, okay. This whole project of pulling all the numbers into this Excel sheet is like, it's been on my plate for like 2 weeks. And eventually, because it needs to get done, you give it to somebody. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Now I don't have to do that. I feel great. What else can I get rid of? And then we start delegating something else. And it's like, oh, okay, well, this is awesome. Fun. Okay, let's do something else. And then comes that day or that middle of the night moment where we wake up and we're like, oh crap, who did I give that to? Was there a deadline there? I wonder if they're doing okay. Oh, I should check in on all of them. And then we start micromanaging. Then we go, first of all, our mental load now gets bigger because we're out of control of what everybody's doing. We haven't given them the whole picture and the big purpose. We've only given them a task, not a responsibility. So the reason why we get more burnt out when we delegate mindlessly, because we still have ownership. So the guilt, the worry, the deadline, the time pressure, that's still all there because we haven't given ownership. So the other person is now doing this task and now you're coming, okay, how about this? Oh, and remember, it's a deadline. And then you feel guilty saying that because it's been on your desk already for 3 weeks. And now you're putting pressure on this person. Like all this stuff adds up. And the problem is that the quality of the results isn't amazing either because people you randomly delegate tasks to, they don't own it and they don't see the big picture. And so it creates this whole mess.
It's
right?
a mess.
and when we think about our mental load, I mean, there's a reason why like Zuckerberg and always with a t-shirt, mental load is real. The less decisions we have to make in a day, the more clearly we can think, the more value we can add to our company. And this cluttered mind, and it seems like, oh, I gave all these projects away, so now I'm free. But no, because you're still thinking about them all the time. And I think that's why a lot of people get stuck and saying delegation doesn't work for me because they're not delegating with purpose, and they don't even know what's really on their plate. So I always start with, what do you want your life to look like? Let's pour the water into that jar with the rocks and the sand first. Not all of it, but how about a little bit of water? Then we can still put the big rocks and the sand in, but we've taken care of our life first. So what do you want that to look like? How much water do you want to pour in? How many hours a week do you want to work? What else do you want to do? Because meanwhile, while we're delegating frantically and this whole mind is blowing up, you know what else is happening? Our kids are growing up. Our wife is waiting for us, or our husband is waiting for us, or our partner is waiting for us at home. There's maybe paintings we haven't painted, maybe a book we haven't written, maybe conversations with friends that we haven't had. And it's already lonely enough to be an entrepreneur, right? We don't need to chain ourselves to our mind where everything is just in there and nobody else shares responsibility. And of course, I'm painting it a little bit of black and white for effect, but I think we can all recognize that those are the patterns that happen.
100%.
Right? So we need to get clear, crystal clear on what we want our lives to look like first. Because show me a single entrepreneur that built a business to have less freedom. Show me one.
No, the whole reason is freedom, and it often ends up handcuffing them in a way
they
that
achieve the opposite.
Right. They weren't expecting. So that brings me to this wonderful course you were telling me about that you've created. And tell us about that, Michele, and also where people can learn more about you online. So let's start with the course that's going to be launched. And then where do you hang out online so people can check you out and maybe, engage you with, they're thinking, man, this sounds like me. I need help.
I need help. Absolutely. Well, after I sold my company of 25 years, which was a language translation company, I then started writing my book and coaching entrepreneurs, because really my true calling is to help other entrepreneurs. Like, I worked 4 to 10 hours a week in my company for 15 years. And I scaled it and I grew it faster. I had a higher exit multiple than some of my competitors because I didn't own anything in it. The relationships, right? So seeing so many entrepreneurs struggle, and yes, I'm an executive coach and I have clients that I work with and I love that. But I have to turn down so many clients because, again, I only have so much energy and time and love. Right. And I really want to help more entrepreneurs. So after about 3.5 years of coaching, I took what really worked well, what was giving my clients success, and I put it into a course. So it's an 8-week course that basically allows you to offboard yourself from your business. And, it's a start of the process. The offboarding process never stops because your business will grow. But within those 8 weeks, you're going to free up a minimum of 10 hours a week, if not more. And if you add that up, 10 hours a week is 500 hours a year.
Wow. That's a lot.
$250,000 if your worth is $1,000, right? So, but regardless of that, that is money in your pocket. That is time in your pocket to grow your company. And I was really tired of doing this one-on-one. I mean, I'm not tired of it. I will keep my clients and I love them, but I wanted to just bring it out to more people. I wanted to make it accessible, and there's live coaching with it. So basically how it works, it's 90 minutes of training that is recorded. And then every week we have a 90-minute live coaching session with me, not with somebody else in my organization, with me. And it runs for 8 weeks. So if you want to find out more about that, or you just want to have a chat with me and see, where I can help you and serve you, that's my mission. So it's michelehecken.com, and it's 1L, MICHELEHECKEN.com. And if you go to michelehecken.com/PYP, you will find more information. You can book a time with me. It's free. I'm happy to chat with you because my mission is truly to help entrepreneurs change the world through their businesses and enhance their lives. That's really, truly my passion. Thanks.
Oh, and it comes through so loud and clear. Team, I hope you've picked up on this energy that Michele has and her passion for relieving some of these unnecessary shackles that so many entrepreneurs put around our wrists, our ankles, our necks. We feel our hearts. And so, of course, there will be links to connect with Michele, learn more about her course on her show notes page at pyppodcast.com. And, I admire your candor, and I love that you're willing to share your story, the struggles that you've had, and also the fact that some of it, you were able to build a great business while only working 4 to 10 hours a week. That seems, again, like a pipe dream, and it's not. Yeah, and what you're teaching, that's the thing I love, is that you're really now showing up as a teacher to say, listen, it doesn't have to be the way that you think it does. Let me show you what's possible. And I applaud that, and I'm just so thankful that you're willing to step out into the world and teach people what we don't know, because these lessons they're not baked into our culture yet. Maybe someday, all of these lessons that many entrepreneurs share about the grind and losing their families, their marriages imploding, all the drinking, the drugs, whatever that deep dark hole that many of them find themselves in could come to an end. Wouldn't that be nice? We don't have to hear so many of those stories.
That is so beautifully said. And yes, I'm always focusing on here's what you can have, but it's really important to say what kind of suffering we're ending.
Yes.
What relief we're giving all these amazingly smart entrepreneurs that are starting businesses to make other people's lives better. Mm-hmm. And it just really is my passion to help them make their lives better too.
I love that. And so before we say goodbye, Michele, I like to ask each guest to share a couple of books that have been instrumental to you over the years. Maybe you just read one that really stood out to you. What could you recommend would be helpful for listeners on this journey to more freedom, more awareness about what's possible, and maybe something around belief systems?
I have a few. So I'm going to mention the one that kind of followed me through my entrepreneurial journey. I think probably for the last, at least 15 years is when I first found this book. And it's called Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott. I saw Susan Scott speak at a entrepreneurship conference, and she blew my mind. And I still have pieces of her book that I use at my talks. It is beautiful. And she has 2 amazing analogies in there. One is seeing your company as a tree and explaining that are really useful to keep your company or yourself, to mitigate risk. She has tactical ways that I used in my business to mitigate risk during offboarding. So I highly, highly recommend that book. I still use it today. It is beautiful. It's just fantastic. I highly recommend it. And then on the belief systems one, there's one that I'm reading right now that I really love, and it's more on a metaphysical level for those of you who are interested in that.
Sure.
It's called Tufti, the Priestess.
How do you spell Tufti?
Tufti.
Okay. Tufti, the Priestess.
The Priestess. And the book is by the author Vadim Zeland.
Okay.
And Vadim Zeland is a thought leader. He wrote an 800-page book around, how around vibration, manifestation, how we can get what we want in life, and basically how the universe works.
Sure.
It's 800 pages. So he took this book and made it palatable and made it more fun and enjoyable to read. And that's Tufti. So if
love
you're
it.
at all interested in that, it is beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Well, I've not heard of either of these books, and that is saying a lot because I'm a book nerd. I live around books. So I'll put links to get these 2 books on your show notes page as well, Michele, because I know Team PYP is where leaders are readers, right?
And leaders are readers. Absolutely.
We can always expand our worldview through someone else's worldview. So this has been absolutely delightful. You have taught me some new things, which I appreciate. And I know Team PYP is listening, excited about what you're up to. You introduced us to the term offboarding and also getting fired from our lives. That is powerful. And I imagine there's some listeners, including me, who are thinking, oh yeah, when has life fired me?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not going to happen again. So I appreciate you for who you are, for playing your position so beautifully, and wish you much continued success on this mission you have to help 1 million entrepreneurs not get fired from their lives, but actually embrace their lives.
Yeah, and build more successful businesses in the process. So I couldn't have said it better. Mary Lou, it's been my true honor to be on your show with you today. And I really hope that your listeners got a lot of value out of this so that they can step up and build the life of their dreams.
Hey team, Mary Lou here. Who's number one in football changes from year to year. Fashion trends come and go, same with musical tastes. But leadership skills, they never go out of style. In fact, these days, leadership is an essential survival skill for a world that demands more from us than ever before. To succeed these days, you need to know how to show up for yourself so that you can then do the work you love with people you like the way you want. The Play Your Position Leadership Playbook helps you do this, and it's free. Go to pyppodcast.com to download your copy today. If being more successful this year, next year, in the 21st century is on your to-do list, get your copy of the Play Your Position Leadership Playbook now. pyppodcast.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. That's pyppodcast.com, and start being more of the leader you are meant to be today. This podcast was produced by Daniel Romeros. Show notes for this episode can be found over at pyppodcast.com. I'm Mary Lou Kaiser. Thanks for listening.
Here at the Play Your Position podcast, we believe that the road to self-mastery and a life well lived starts with answering the call to leadership. That's when the fun really begins. Send this episode to any friends who might need to hear the inspiration and ideas you heard today. And feel free to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform.